If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
However, the first 40 minutes of today's live stream is actually pre-recorded. Figured I'd go ahead and let it roll because it kind of recaps what the shot that I started yesterday into Homa 2D, and so I'm going to go ahead and let that roll. I'll kind of be paying attention here and there to the chat, but I'll be dipping in about a half an hour after this first section of the live stream run. So this is just pre-recorded from earlier, and I will now mute my microphone and allow that to play. For now, we're recording. So if you're watching this, you're probably watching the recording. And we're having nothing but fun. This goes to show how much you can do with squash and stretch, even at 8 frames per second, if you want to. As you can see, I'm doing the ink into the same layer that the pencil test was done. And using my paintbrushes for both my sketch, which is semi-transparent, as you can see from the alpha setting, and then my ink also has this very important setting, slow position tracking, set to 10, which is what gives it a smoothing, basically adds smoothing to the brush, quite useful. For ink in particular, I find 10 is a pretty good setting. The only time it becomes a problem is things like what I'm doing right now, where you're trying to draw a really tight little oval, let's say, a filled oval, that type of thing. That's where it does become a little bit more problematic, because the smoothing, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. You almost have to try it and see what I'm talking about. But other than that, you could mitigate that by, for example, zooming way in and just drawing an oval and then hitting the F key and filling it. You'd accomplish the same thing. So, not like it's a problem. But yeah, this is going to be nice. So, as far as I can tell, this is probably going to be the last shot in the well, actually, I say that. I probably shouldn't say that. I was going to say in the sequence I'm working on right now, that's going to be the next webisode of the show. And by the way, I'm going to use, and you'll notice that this color here, I'm going to go ahead and add the slow position tracking to this as well. We'll make that 10. But one thing you'll notice is it's also set to auto paint for lines. So for Monkey, this is quite a useful setting, because by doing this, we can create a demarcation between the fur color and the flesh color. And when we paint the color in, the blue lines will just automatically disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of smack these in here. In this case, I'll just draw a circle. Again, just adding those shapes here. I'm going to say we'll just close it up this way. So sometimes in anime you'll see people use blue lines for and just demarcating shadow areas, for example. Okay, so now I want to be a little careful, as I said, on this one. If I want to avoid that little problem with the smoothing, what I would do is just draw the oval of the eye and then fill it. Fill it, fill it, fill it. Okay, that doesn't want to fill, but I bet you if I hit the 1 key and erase the sketch lines and then fill it, it'll probably, oops. Sorry, I just filled it with the wrong color. I need to hit the 2 key. Alright, we'll fill that back in. Get that back under control, friends. Zoom out. We're kind of playing with a lot of nuance here because obviously when you go out to the actual size of the frames, those ovals are pretty tiny on the screen. So, anyway, I've been spending the last few days doing essentially corrections and fixes on the show, and what I was kind of saying was that we're close to the end of the road here in terms of I should be able to release the next webisode soon. Now, of course, once all the animation's done, I've got to get the go in there and do the soundtrack. I guess we want to use this to specify those borders. Okay, and then there's one more frame which we really need to actually hit the S key and just select everything. Control C, and then go into S, Control V, and then hit the E key to erase the other eyes. And that should do the trick. Now, to do the erasing, what we'll do is we'll go up here, we'll hit the E key, it's set to selective. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a frame range, right? So what that means is we're actually going to take the pencil test color, okay? So selective and frame range means it's going to erase only the pencil test, and it's going to erase it over whatever frame range I specify. So I'm going to make a big loop like this, and then go down here to the end and do another big loop. And now everywhere through that entire sequence, all my pencil test lines will be erased. Okay, so cool. You notice I actually did forget to... I forgot to finish my inking. Well, honest mistake. Let's go B, B, B. I'm just going to allow his body to be a big squash and stretch situation. Okay, I think that ought to do the trick. N key, so we see it at the actual size. Look at that. Now I really like that. This is something I want to do more of. The other thing too is so by going ahead and doing these drawings, you know, we've got really nice squash and stretch, and we can always, if in the show, to edit the show, it turned out maybe we could shorten this clip a bit. Well, let's just kick up the frame rate. Now this shot, if we run it at 12 frames per second, looks incredible. You know, it's great. Real good. So, there we go. But 8 frames per second is our normal situation. So now the question becomes, what about the background? Okay, so this shot has been done 3 times, frankly. So there are actually 2 different files, let's say, that do contain a background. So in this case, let's solo this layer. Well, no, let's not do that. Let's kill this group and see what we have. So this is the background with the bowl. Oh, I see. So this stuff's supposed to be in front of Luka, and this stuff's supposed to be behind Luka. The only thing I'm kind of seriously objecting to here is the this sort of ground line looks just stupid. So I want to flatten that out a bit, and frankly probably blur it a little bit too. We'll go with that. We are trying to keep a somewhat cartoony look here, so I'm just gonna let that kind of flow in there. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is, I believe it's Control E would be merge with layer below. So I'm going to go ahead and merge those two so that I can then go Control C and actually just paste them into Tahoma. So there's my background, and then I'll do my foreground background, which I actually think is wrong. He really needs to probably be in front of the building. Let's see here. Yeah, boy, that was awful. I want to check something though. Image. So make sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I was seeing something funny. Okay, so I'm rescaling the whole image. The whole image is supposed to be broadcast HD. Control C. Not full HD. So I thought this looked wrong. So now I'm going to go. I guess the simplest way to do it would be to hit the S key and then Control V, and that should. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to do this over because the actual size of my scene. Well, I guess that's not what I meant. Camera settings. Yeah, it's supposed to be. Let's see. It looks like what happened was, because I pasted a full HD frame in there, what Tahoma did was, quite appropriately, created a raster level that was actually full HD. That's quite useful sometimes, by the way. You know, if you have to pan your background, for example, it's definitely useful to thinking. Yeah, I'm actually thinking everything about this really does belong in the background. Let's pull up this. Okay, I see what the problem is. Yeah, it's the bowl. So what we want to do. So this was a tricky situation because the quote-unquote background, or the things that are static in the image, some of them are in front of Luka and some of them are behind him. Truth of the matter is, everything except the bowl, I don't know, I could go either way, frankly. I'm going to hit Control C. I'm going to go ahead and paste this in and see what I've got. Not a big tragedy either way. Control V. Not a big tragedy either way. I don't know why it takes so long to paste in, but not the end of the world. Hello? Tahoma! Hello? Hello, my friend. By the way, well, never mind. I was going to say you could organize your work a little better, ostensibly, by pasting into this same column and then actually spreading it over 2 levels, but that actually doesn't make sense because each of the individual drawings get saved on your hard drive separately anyway. But they would have the same name, you know, .00010002, which would kind of keep them together, so you could drag the whole image sequence back into another scene if you needed to. In this case, this is a pretty lame, you know, this is not an award-winning background painting situation, so probably don't need to worry too much about that. One thing I do want to do right now while I'm thinking about it is just, this bowl is, let's just say I probably could have done a better job. Now, you know, the bowl just fell. Ostensibly, it's been broken or whatever, but, right? But it's still, I mean, apparently this one isn't completely wrecked. So, maybe just kind of smoothing that out. And then, I would even say, actually, let's hit the old B key and kind of drive in there with a little bit stronger outline too. That'll be good. Okay. I would say that's probably looking a little better. Should I go ahead and reinforce this line? Can't hurt. can't hurt to do so. If it's a little sketchy, that's okay. A little sketchy, a little loose. Loose is generally good. And another thing I do want to do here as well, actually, now that I'm kind of here and thinking about it, is take this blur brush. Let's turn the opacity down quite a bit. And just soften this edge. This shadow seems a little unnatural to me. Yeah, that's definitely an improvement. So that's what the Q-tip is for, friends. That's what the Q-tip is for. And a little bit of dimensionality there that almost looks like the bowl has sort of a lip. That doesn't hurt anything. That's fine. I actually like the way that looks. So, no problem. No problem. Okay, Control C. Let's go back here. Control V. Wait half a second. It should paste in. Okay, I'm a little confused. This would be... I'm going to save all. I'm actually going to reload this. Tahoma's acting weird. I've just tried to paste from Krita twice in a row, and even if there was nothing on the clipboard, Tahoma would complain. So it would say there's nothing on the clipboard to paste. So something weird is going on. I'm going to attribute that to just Tahoma being stupid. And while Tahoma can be a little buggy at times, the good news is that Tahoma is also very stable and forgiving. Meaning when it starts acting stupid, usually if you just rerun it, yeah, okay, so there you go. I was making sure I copied it by actually cutting it instead of copying. So there we go. See what happens here. Okay, now it seems to be, there we go. Okay, so now we do see what the problem is. Clearly, I mean, we've got some real differentiation here between some of the other other background paintings that we've used in this one. So that in and of itself is a bit problematic, but let's just think about this for a second. I want to turn on these layers and just kind of see what I have. Yeah, so that arm is coming in pretty strong. So the real focus of the shot was supposed to be Mel's hand reaching down for the bowl. But I like the framing, organization, whatever you want to say about this shot better. So I think what we're going to do is move this down into the foreground like that, so that it kind of I like that better. Okay, let's crop this to the... Yes and no. Actually, I think we'll center that. We'll put that there. Okay, so now that means we need to take this layer and do one animation key to put Luka where he needs to be, and in this case I'm going to say we should probably actually scale him down a little bit. So he's sitting there just barely behind that corner. So now that makes it work. Okay, so that means likewise Monkey is going to have to be tweaked a bit in terms of his positioning. Not too much though. Okay, so same situation here. Actually, you know what we could do? Let's make column 2 a child of column 3 structurally. So that means actually strike that, forget what I just said. And that's because what we actually did was translated the plastic tool, and the monkey isn't even encompassed in the plastic tool. So we're making things a little hairy if we start connecting them together. So what I'm going to do is just put that little anchor point right there, and let's just see. Oh, okay, that's completely wrong. Excuse me, friends. Always I'm sneezing in your ears. Alright, let's go here, here, scale them down a little bit, position, and I think that will do the trick. Okay, so then this keyframe obviously should be back up here on top. Okay? Okay. Now the question becomes, do we have the tools and capability in place to expand this painting? Yeah, it looks like we do. So that's good. Alright, so we can just go like that. That was easy. R key, let's see if we've got any room on the left side. What I'm wondering is, are we going to have to actually have another layer of background? Looks like we're okay. So here, kind of the same situation. We just need to, I'm going to rotate the canvas so I can, since I'm a righty. And here, this is a bit of a mixed bag. I really want the grass to prevail here, so I'm going to go R, hit the B key, and then let's just go ahead and fill in this grassy area. Okay, stop. Obviously you can see why that was kind of a bad idea. So we can go ahead and pile that on there, but really we need to come back here and add it to the layer that's behind Luka, which of course also means that we need to kind of get a little bit of the shadow area in there, and then probably use a little bit of, ooh, wow, that's a little strong, friends, isn't it? Wow, that was nasty. Yeah, this is one of those cases where, excuse me, you sort of see some of the weakness of the my paintbrushes to a degree here. So that's okay. Actually, the biggest deficiency for me would be the fact that hang on, can't do two things at once. When a lot of the settings, you kind of saw it here, but you probably didn't realize what was going on, but a lot of the settings are number one, the continuity from across the range is a little, shall we say, inconsistent. In other words, it's not a nice smooth linear progression across the range of densities of, say, the opacity. So it's like you can turn it down a lot from 100% to like maybe 60, and you don't see much difference, but then the difference between 60 and 60 or 55 might be really huge. I've seen that quite a bit. Not a huge tragedy, but here I need to erase, clip that out of there, and let's reset our screen. This is actually looking okay. Let's hit the R key, let's sample that little dirty color and just add a little bit of noise here and there. Okay, the other thing with the brushes is, and you can kind of tweak this with a hotkey or whatever, but I love that in Krita you can just hit the control key and then just drag your stylus and it changes the size. In Tahoma we have to manually go up here and tweak the brush size. All the time. It's what we gotta do. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's go to this background and sample that shadow color and then just kind of work with it a bit and just kind of add a bit of noise and a bit of, frankly, you know what, that's a little bit backwards. I probably should sample this color And the idea would be that if you're going to draw the kinds of shapes I was just drawing, they are in fact more highlights than shadows, right? So now on the plus side, this oil paint brush in Tahoma, well, it's a My Paint brush, so it's really from My Paint, but really a nice brush. It's got a good mix of color application and blending all in one brush. It does a pretty nice job of, if you're used to organic brushes, or let's say real media, kind of straddles that line pretty well. Let's say, come on, just trying to scribble and just ease in a little bit of a highlight there. It's a little bit of noise, you know, just break up the background a bit. Like so. Probably another thing, let's just consider here. Yeah, actually another thing we might want to do in the background is just give a slight hint of yellow here. And the reason for that is it's supposed to actually be early morning and the sun is rising, so that kind of fits the shot. Now, you may find it shocking that I've managed to completely overlook this big glaring glitch right in the middle of my drawing. Yeah, like, dude, how exactly did you miss that? Don't quite see how that happened. Yeah. Okay, so here's how we're going to have to deal with this. It's a little bit stupid, but okay. Well, obviously, in the other version of this background painting, this was actually the edge of the building. So this is where the blending character of this brush is quite useful. You should be able to sort of salvage, especially if we were to blur this just a pixel or two, then this would be, you wouldn't see any of this little bit of painting I'm adding. So here I'm not even sampling the color. I'm literally just using the blending characteristic of the brush to just smooth things out. And another thing I want to do is actually extend this. We'll let it fade into a bit of atmospheric perspective, but we do want to kind of bring this over like so. Okay, so Control or Shift Alt R, so we're not soloing our layer, and I'm sorry, I meant Control tilde. Yeah, I said the wrong hotkey, didn't I? Okay, so that's probably working okay. I find it a little concerning, however, that I appear to have inadvertently bit a little piece out of my poor little bowl. Well, the world will keep on turning, friends. Alright, now I'm going to grab my brush, fairly dark brush, B key, and just fix it. Fix it, I tell you. Alright, N key is actual size. And now let's just chillax for half a second and see what we've got. Actually, let me see if this is renderable. My output settings for this should be shot 130. Ooh, this is wrong. Okay, so this is plus scenes 1. You got to be able to type there, friends. 134 render. And I'm going to say 134 dot. I'm almost sure that this should be a ping sequence. Not a JPEG sequence, a ping sequence. Let's find out. I'm looking at the show right now, and I'm looking at this image sequence that we're replacing. And it is. It's a ping sequence. Now, in my editor, by the way, what I'm doing is I'm going to just delete this. I'm actually going to kill this once.
Hello?
Okay. Notice that it is being dissolved into this. There we go. So I'm live now. That was all pre-recorded a little bit earlier. And I don't think that there was any salient information conveyed in the next few minutes of that video, so now I'm back. And I cut it into the show and looked pretty good. Let's go over to the video edit and just kind of see. So yeah, basically I did some timing adjustment and stuff because I wanted the chuckling of Luka to kind of just dovetail into that fade to the next little segment. And the good news is that I'm really shockingly close, friends, to being able to get busy on voices and music, actually, post-production, for the second 4-minute-ish webisode. So there's still a few things we need to do here. Still a few things to do. Let's just trudge away on this. The first thing that needs to happen is we need to get Mel's arm in there. And we're going to just steal that from here in Krita. So go Control C. And just pop it up here. Control V. Should paste it in as a raster level, which we can then animate. Pretty simple. Yep, pretty simple. There's his arm. So the animation of it would obviously put it up here somewhere. We could maybe do that so we can see what we're doing. And then I'm going to say over about half a second, his arm will come down into frame. And he says, "Yuck it up, kid." So let's see how that flows. Yuck it up, kid. Boom. Okay, not too bad. Maybe just a tiny bit later. Okay, that works. So let's get Monkey taken care of then. And by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody to like and subscribe. If you love the Animation Truman Show, if you like looking over the shoulder of the dude who is just creating an entire cartoon all by himself, then by all means support me. I'm just thinking about the possibility of using a little plastic tool on that arm. I think for now I'm going to skip that. I think we'll leave it simple. But I will say, I'll just reiterate what I've been saying for a while here, kind of in conjunction with any discussion of, like trying to crowdfund this project. I've said that I really generally only can give this an hour or two a day, and I tell you that's becoming increasingly true because of the commercial client situation is kind of screaming right now. Like, I'm kind of getting busier. I'm getting busier, folks, with stuff that has nothing to do with animation, and so for that reason, it's like you guys can tilt the teeter-totter back toward the ultimate goal of obviously just being able to justify working on a show like this full-time, not very much part-time, which is what we have right now. So it's all good. It's all good either way. My life works out either way, but yeah, ultimately it is kind of up to you guys. Now, what I want to do here is, think about this. The question is really, how far do I want to go with the building? If I go back to, and by the way, the links for things like, Patreon and stuff are obviously in the video description. So if you look down there, you will find it. So what I'm doing is I'm looking on my other screen at some of the other backgrounds that maybe involved Luka and Monkey, just to see if there's something I can judiciously steal from an earlier shot. It doesn't really look like it. In fact, honestly, this really doesn't look too bad. Bear with me just half a second here. Yeah, I don't really see anything that's jumping out at me as being a great candidate. So if that's all mysterious to you, the upshot is that here we have a fairly saturated color really on this wall. And so what I'm going to do, I think, is let's grab this brush, the oil paint brush. We'll set it to probably -3, honestly. It needs to be pretty small. B key. Just do, okay, so yeah, that is roughly where it needs to be. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sample this color and then just try to desaturate it a little bit and just do a fill and see how that goes. Oh, not too bad. Okay. Not too bad. Maybe slightly. Probably slightly. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. Okay. So all those little scribbles are fine. So what I think I'm going to do is just get a little bit darker color and punch it up a bit, as I like to say. So I'm going to turn this on a bit of an angle. So I can just kind of go over these lines. And this is not supposed to be the greatest stonemasonry job anyone ever did. You know, the building's kind of cobbled together to a degree. And plus, all of this is really supposed to be kind of, it's not supposed to draw your attention too much, obviously. So, hey Chris K, check the Cuphead series trailer. Is that something you're creating, or is that something you're just like recommending? The Cuphead series trailer. What is the Cuphead series? Help us understand, Chris, what the heck you're even talking about. The Cuphead series trailer, so. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hit the R key to sample this color. Just making sure it's sampling correctly. It looks like it is. And then go just up north a little bit so we get a bit of a highlight. Ooh, boy, that's actually a little strong. We really want it to be pretty. So usually for, actual contrast, usually it's like you want to click just far enough that you can, actually make the click, because that tends to give you a level of contrast. We might be just a little more level of contrast that looks, pretty good. Hey, Amar. It's a 30s inspired style animated show. Okay. Right on, man. Good advice. Everybody check it out. So this seems to be coming up fairly frequently lately, this matter of creating bricks. So we just want it to kind of look reasonably convincing in the background. Just a little bit of dimensionality. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Control Shift. What is it? Control Shift. Oops, that's actually not what I meant to do. I think it's Shift Alt R. Shift Alt, not Shift Control. Yeah. To reset my screen rotation. That's a hotkey I set up, so it's not like default into Homa or anything like that. one thing you might find helpful when you're trying to do this type of thing, background painting, is don't look directly at what you're painting. Kind of like I'm painting here, but I'm kind of looking here, so I'm seeing this in my peripheral vision. So you sort of feel whether it's working or not. It helps you keep your wider perspective on the painting, because it just has to feel right, you know. It doesn't have to look realistic or, you know, whatever. Okay. I guess we will go ahead and render that, and I'll turn on the preview. Turn on the preview so we can see how this is actually cutting into the show. Okay, so now, just because I thought of it just now, one thing that does certainly come to mind is, alright, I tell you what, I'm gonna look that Cuphead series trailer up right now on YouTube. Just 'cause I can. Okay, I'm going to turn off the... Oh, I see what you got going on. Yeah, sure. It does look pretty cool. So that's coming to Netflix. Yeah, and it looks like an interesting mix of, initially looked like there's some CGI 3D stuff, but obviously going for a largely 2D kind of look. But yeah, it looks like it's really well done. Frankly, I call that a wonderful step in the right direction. When you look at some of these shows that, oh golly, I mean, just go down the list. Stuff like Bob's Burgers, or I can't even remember. There's been a number of animated shows that, I mean, I just have an OMG moment where I go, ostensibly they actually think this is funny, and the writing is so bad. You know, you sit through a whole episode and you never even chuckle once. You know what I mean? And people are like celebrating this like this is good kind of thing. Some of it boggles my mind. The level of garbage that has shown up in the original animated. And again, I can't brag here, especially from a technical standpoint. But I don't think, when I criticize on that level, I'm not talking about the animation. Okay, I mean, 3/4 view comedy type shows are fine, and usually what you're really expecting from them from an animation standpoint is no big deal. And that's simply because what you're actually watching for is the writing. It's the comedy. It's, what was the other one? There's one about, gosh, I'm seeing this guy. Who was the guy who was, he's kind of like a Hollywood wild guy. Darn it, what the heck is his name? I hate it when I have these brain farts. I can literally see the guy in my mind. But anyway, he was involved with some comedy series, animated thing that came out just recently-ish, that was about these 3 stoners from the 60s who basically got high, fell asleep in a house, and did a Rip Van Winkle thing and fell asleep for 30 years, and then they woke up in their house, which is, of course, no longer their house. Somebody bought it, right? So now they're in a house that's not even theirs, and now they have to figure out how to live in the year, 2020 kind of thing. Anybody know what that is? I can't remember what that's called. But I tell you, I mean, it's like okay, I'll sit through this and, give it a chance. And it was like I sat through the whole thing in the entire episode. And remember, the value proposition of a show like that is that it is a comedy. The whole point is that this is supposed to be funny, right? That's important because not every show is. Like Salt and Light is not a comedy. It's basically a drama that has some comedic elements to it, right? So that's a different thing. And I sat through this whole show, and I basically had a small chuckle one time in the whole half an hour. So it's like, okay, this is what we think is good writing. Now the animation was fine. It was a good looking show as far as just a comedy cartoon thing. It was fine, no problem. The writing was just sucked. It was like worthless. What good's a comedy that never makes you laugh, right? Found a show on MD called Ripped. Is that it? I don't know. It's like I said, I'm having a brain fart where I wish I could remember the guy I was thinking of, who's one of the three. They're like three Hollywood kind of name guys that you've heard of. One of them was either in the Divergent film series, or what's the other one? Again, brain farts, just brain farts all over the place. The girl with the arrow, right? You're gonna shoot the arrow. There's three. It's a series of 3 movies. Basically, Divergent was a copy of it, and the name of it is escaping me, right? Because I'm thinking about what I'm doing here right now. So like, totally major series that I'm just having a complete brain fart on what the title of it is. That's like so sad. It comes with getting old, folks. It comes with getting old. Who is that guy? Yeah, Hunger Games. Thank you. Oh, that is so sad. Yes, a Hunger Games. So who was the guy who was played? He always plays the same guy in every movie he's in, but he's kind of the wild character. He's kind of the edgy guy who's, and he's a popular guy, and he's had a good long career too. Can't remember. What the heck was his name? What is the actor's name? Who always plays the kind of wild-eyed, crazy guy. He's kind of in the same generic camp as like a Steve Buscemi type of guy, right? I just cannot remember his name. But anyway, he was one of the 3 principals behind this cartoon series that just popped up about the 3 stoners who basically do the Rip Van Winkle thing. I'll think of it one of these times. I'll think of it. Come on, Amar, you should know. You know who I'm talking about. Dang. Okay. Okay, we got to do the color on Monkey, and actually we got to do the color on Luka. Because I just took generic colors and just colored him in last night, so I could just get something going here. But okay, that's a little creepy. Why is it not changing in real time? I bet you that's because of the plastic tool. I wonder what happens if we go over to the drawing like this and then change the color. Yeah, see. Something about the plastic tool kind of makes everything delay a bit. So, yes, the actor I'm trying to think of. No, it's not Christopher Walken. Nope. Good guess. He's for a guy who's probably 60-ish, he's pretty pretty thin. Like I said, he always plays this kind of like a wild character. He's like always kind of edgy, and I must know. He's one of these guys who never has risen to the top in terms of popular culture. He's always been, if like in the music space, you could relate it to somebody like Bob Dylan, where he's been able to maintain a long career where he's basically viewed as cool, and he's never been so overexposed. Yes, thank you, Woody Harrelson. That's exactly who I was trying to think of. Thank you. Yes, Woody Harrelson. Very good. Yeah, he was one of the 3 guys behind this, this show about the stoners. And I was just really disappointed, actually, because actually having his name on it, I just kind of expected more. When you talk about a comedy, that's always going to be the thing I'm going to criticize, is the writing. It either made me laugh or it didn't. And I got to go back to somewhere in here, I think. I'm trying to find a shot of Luka so I can really get... this is almost scary how much ground I've covered in the last week or two. I mean, I really did not expect this to go as kind of quick as it did. Okay, so his garment is pretty light blue. And the thing about Luka is his skin is a little bit darker. I mean, he's basically Indian, but he's not like Haji in Johnny Quest. His skin isn't that dark, but he's on the darker side. So that's basically who Luka is, So I'm kind of eyeballing it in this particular case, as opposed to, like if you take Tianara, like Mel is just straight kind of a flesh tone, whereas Tianara is more like that, where her skin trends toward the green side, like an olive complexion kind of thing. So anyway, I probably need and Wyatt did that as my paintbrush, I'm not really sure, since I was making a copy of a non-my paintbrush. So that's an interesting little eventuality, but that's okay. Let's do the fill tool, and we will do it in freehand mode so we can just lasso his eyebrows and just catch that little bitty bit right there. And then let's deal with basically this should be a little bit more muted color, probably about like that for this shot. Okay, so clearly we need to deal with some bit of shadowing, but you know what? Let's be honest, friends. Let's do it this way, just so you guys can see how to do this. So if you have any brush and you turn on auto paint for lines, that allows you to do what I'm about to do, which is going to look absolutely miraculous. You're not going to believe it. First of all, I'm going to assume that, so I'm doing this anime style basically. I'm going to assume that sitting near the wall, he's going to have a bit of shadow caused by the wall. So I'm not going to do those shadows the way I usually do with a vector level. I'm going to do it anime style. Okay? So all I'm going to do is just create these shapes like this, and now what we'll do is we'll take this color, make a duplicate of it, and then just make it a little bit darker, and we'll see if this works. Oops, we need to be in normal mode. Okay, and now we can also dial that in. We can dial that color in. We probably should look at it in the context of the show. And if we want to punch it up a little bit more, we can just hit the V key. Well, of course we'd have to do it over here. Hit the V key. And Darren T did point out to me, by the way, yesterday, that yes, indeed, we do actually have the ability to have a range of sizes with the Smart Raster Paint tool. So yeah, so there you go. So it's responding to pressure. So that's pretty cool. I did not even know that until yesterday. So we should turn this to areas, not lines and areas. That way it won't inadvertently cover up our ink lines. But that, go in and hand paint it and just dial it right in, baby. I like it muy mucho. Yeah, Woody Harrelson. So, okay, so born in 69. Yeah, that's what I thought. You're about 3 years younger than me. Willem Dafoe. Yeah, he's pretty good. Woody Harrelson. The guy that was in the first Spider-Man. Yeah, Willem Dafoe. And I think Dafoe, Harrelson, maybe to a lesser degree Steve Buscemi. I mean, those guys are all kind of working similar territory in terms of their character persona and the roles they tend to play. Right? So, all good. But the Stoner show, I did not think was particularly good. So, let's see what this feels like. Okay, not bad. So, do we want to do the same thing with his head? Why not? We've got a single drawing here. And since we're just kind of having fun doing it, and we like being able to use auto paint for lines, because it makes us feel like we're creating an anime. Because it looks like those little videos you can watch here on YouTube where they, the behind the scenes stuff. Alright, so then what we would do is we'd make a copy of that color, make it just a little bit darker. The problem with this technique is that you wind up with a fairly, oftentimes with a fairly unwieldy palette, because you wind up having to have so darn many colors in order to, you double it, you got to double your number of colors. So think of it that way. That's the disadvantage. The advantage is that it gives you a lot more control over your shadows, because every shadow has its own individual color. So there's that. So pick your poison. Just depends on which priority is more important and valuable to you. Alright, I'm going to steal this color. I'm going to hit Control C. And then let's go over to Monkey. And we're going to have to... Did I actually do that? I guess I did. Tell you what. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and paste in this color and then paste in another color, which is a copy. I don't like the fact that it keeps defaulting to a raster brush. So to a degree, a small degree, a bit of the, I'm noticing today a couple ways that the Tahoma Nightly build Honeymoon is it's not over, but it's definitely a bit more muted than it might have been a couple days ago. Just because I am seeing today some little shortcomings, little buggy things. Okay, right there I've got a mistake that's completely my fault. I need to close that shape. And now if we go over here, I guess we'll work backwards. So we'll start with 7. Let's see how this goes. Yep. We'll crank through and do all of the lighter color first. So now you can totally see what auto paint for lines does for you. It's pretty useful, I must say. That was something Martin Short used to say with some character he used to play on, was it Saturday Night Live? Yeah, Martin Short's another one of those guys that, I had mentioned a couple days ago how my sense of humor is a little unusual. And there are definitely people who have been widely heralded as, in the popular culture, as, kings of comedy, who I never thought were particularly funny at all. Top of the list for sure would be David Spade. Never seen David Spade ever do anything ever that actually I thought was funny. Don't know why. Probably because his whole general, Mr. Smug persona kind of vibe, it just never worked for me. I never quite bought that. Well, we're close here, people, aren't we? We are close. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm going to render this baby and see how it looks in the show. Okay, so let's just switch back here and try. I'm going to make a mental note right now. Don't forget to switch back between the screen. Oh yeah, that looks good. That's sitting in the mix nicely. Yeah. So he drops the bowls. You know, kind of a sad situation. This is all the work we did last night, color correction. Punching it all up. And right there, we got a problem. He tells Asher, yep, I got it under control, Asher, or something to that effect. I don't remember what the... Okay. I was going to say we need to cut this short, but I forgot about the Melchizedek smile. So, but it's still a little bit long. That shot is definitely running a bit long. So, just smile. Boom. Cut. Oh, I see. Okay. So he smiles, but then he goes back to like a pensive, not so sure. So that works. Okay, so that's about the right cut point, actually. That feels good. It feels good. Ed Tadeo just uploaded a cool animation short. He came a long way. Shows that if you have the drawing skills, once you learn how to animate, you can put naysayers to rest. Ed's the best, man. I said it the other day. There's nobody on planet Earth who's doing better work with Krita than Ed Tadeo. There are some who are close, you know, I suppose, although I don't know who they are, because there really aren't that many people that are doing any kind of credible amount of animation with Krita. But he proves, you talk about the naysayers, Ed proves if you just buckle down and do it, you can do her. Absolutely. Okay, so he does this little thing and then yuck it up, kid. Nice. I like it. And now Mel is basically getting scolded by Asher, and we're back to this. And friends, I kid you not. We are really close to being able to launch into, you know, this whole section. I mean, look at this. This is 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Dude, if I put a like a 10-second abbreviated intro on this sequence, we're gonna have a 4.5-minute webisode. You know, I just need to get the soundtrack done. So Maria, if you're gonna do that voice, make sure you get that to me sometime soon-ish. Okay. So Amar says, "Hey Yvette, how you doing, baby?" Ed today, he says, "I'm sure AMB would have something to say regarding his animation." Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair to AMB, what AMB is trying to do and what Ed are trying to do is very, very different. Ed generally, I'm going to look at right now what he just uploaded because I'd like to see it, but, you know, Ed is generally kind of coming both in terms of technique and in terms of what the final result looks like. He's coming from very much an anime kind of perspective, I would say, whereas AMB is totally about, to put it a bit snarkily, what AMB is doing is capturing the worst of Walt Disney. So in other words, he's teaching people how to do the type of animation that was done during the period of Disney animation that would be, in my opinion, the least successful or cool period. So TV day, okay, cool. So I'm looking at Ed's animation right now. Well, I guess I can pull this down here so you guys can see it too. Be fans of Ed. I've left the sound off so I don't create some problems. But yeah, his tweening sure is smooth, isn't it? Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Sorry, guys. I'm going to rewind this. Actually, let's check out what Ed's doing. Apparently, Ed released this today. And I always want to plug Ed when I can. In fact, I'm gonna trust in God and luck that probably letting the sound go is fine. So let's see what Ed's been doing. His background painting is just outstanding. It's one of his really great strengths as far as I'm concerned. And this is way more simplistic and stylized than usual for him. So it's a bit of a departure. Nice. So I hope it's okay that I played that. But that is a cool departure, because that is not what Ed usually does. He's usually so he's really done a good job of grabbing I would call it a very modern, kind of edgy style that isn't so anime inspired. So that's great to see from Ed. Well done, my friend. Well done. So, Amar, I'm looking at your comments. You just watched the show. Okay, you said, I like Disney animation. That is what AMB is doing. Well, I mean, I like it too. Like I do maintain that if you're going to talk about that period, for me, the best was Sword in the Stone. It's not the best story at all. It's a pretty awful script, frankly. But as far as animation and the look of it, and sort of optimizing this whole idea of using the Xerox machine to turn pencil art into, ink lines, I think they sort of got it figured out with Sword in the Stone. That's my opinion. I don't have much use for anything that happened really in the 70s, really right up until Oliver and Company, Fox and the Hound, Aristocats. I think most of that stuff just doesn't really hold up that well. Now, I mean, obviously, you say, well, could you do it? And the answer is, well, I could probably do some of it, but, I don't want to take anything away from the amount of work that went into that, because obviously those are massive, massive projects. But if it doesn't entertain you, that's the thing. Really, that's the first you saw. I know for me it was 101 Dalmatians. I mean, when I was a kid, we went to a drive-in theater and saw a double feature of 101 Dalmatians. First we saw Swiss Family Robinson, and then 101 Dalmatians. And it must have been a re-release, so I would guess, I would have to guess that would have been a re-release, because I think 101 Dalmatians was originally like 66 or something. So it was I probably saw it in a drive-in theater like around 72 or something. They tend to have like a 6-year, I think, release cycle as far as re-releases. But anyway, so what we got to do here is go back and just do a little evaluation. Redid that shot using Krita's animation transform masks. That's that voice we talked about the other day. Maria, things are looking good.
Where is that Melchizedek?
Okay, so I'm going to scan through here. I'm just looking for things that need to be fixed. And there are things that, so there's some judgment calls here because of, what I have to do is I have to take, a lot of this was originally done in a period where the styles evolved a little bit. So what I change and quote unquote improve really kind of has to do with sort of finding a balance between letting it stay kind of stylistically what it is, not deviating it too much from that, because I think it's fine. But at the same time, taking things that clearly within the parameters of that stylistic approach aren't good enough and get them to be good enough. So I think all in all, that's going pretty well. So right there, I see something. Now, when he sees her, we've got this level of saturation that to a degree speaks to the fact that he's seeing her, right? But I think that it's a little jarring to go to this shot because the change in saturation is kind of great. So let's just punch the gamma down a little bit and maybe the saturation up just a little bit, so there's a little less of a, yeah, that's better. Let me look at the green. So now I'm actually looking at the meter here. Your green channel's right here in the kind of lower left-hand corner. So, yeah, I mean, I would say it looks to me like the greens, I probably want to pull it back a little bit. Obviously, actually the cyan, this right here is actually this is an unqualifying color, so that's actually really bad. If this ever showed on television, it would not reproduce correctly. Let me think about this for half a second. Oh, yes, Snow White. Well, you're going back to... Yeah, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, Marlon Perkins. Yeah, the Apprentice movie, right? Sorcerer's Apprentice, which of course was part of Fantasia. Wonderful World of Disney. Yeah, we used to watch it. We'd make popcorn and milkshakes every Sunday night. We would watch Wild Kingdom at 7:30 and then Disney from 8 to 9 as I recall. But yeah, they rotoscoped the girl who you know, they did. I don't know how much they actually rotoscoped, but they certainly filmed a girl in costume that they used as reference for quite a lot of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a secondary color corrector. Okay, so the idea here with a secondary color corrector is that you can select a specific range of your visuals, and if you click this to show the mask, you can see what's going to be affected. Now in this case, the main thing we're looking at is the hue. So I'm going to widen this out and smooth it out, and it doesn't seem to be doing much. So I am going to say, let's take off these two limits. Okay, let's turn this back down again. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. That's kind of what we're after. We want to isolate the blues, but maybe not pick up the mountains as much. So now, having created that mask, we can limit it a little bit more. Like if we limit it to saturation, we might be able to, yep, see, by using the saturation, we can kind of filter the mountains out of our mask. So now what we've done is a pretty good job of isolating the blue of the sky, which is causing the problem in the meter over here. We're just simply too saturated. So by isolating that and then turning down the saturation, you can see, if you look in this upper right hand corner, it's hard to see, but see that? We want to get that below that little green box there, because that is an unqualifying color. And it looks to me like, frankly, gosh, this probably needs to be just re-rendered. If we turn this off and on, if you look at the sky, it doesn't look like that much of a difference, but boy, oh boy, it really is. So if you're going to do it all over here on the editing side, you really have got to tamp down Mel's hair as well. So I'm going to say, let's turn the hue limiting off, so we only limit to saturation. Yes, that makes more sense. So now what we've done is we've been able to fold both the overly saturated sky and the overly saturated hair into the mask, like so. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now if we turn the mask off, I don't know. I'm actually wondering if what I'm seeing, I don't think what I'm seeing is the hair, because that would really be more in the magenta anyway. So I think what I'm actually seeing is the yellow of the sun. So long story short is there's a lot of things about this shot. These are the kind of things you sort of have to pay attention to. There's a lot of things about this shot that are a little bit problematic color-wise. It looks gorgeous, but the problem is, it's too much of a good thing. So I don't even remember. I did this shot a week ago maybe, and I don't remember if it was a Krita shot or a Tahoma. I just do not remember. So I'm going to just type in 01091.tnz and see if it finds it. And if it doesn't, then I know it's a Krita shot, which is going to make the color correction aspects really easy. Really easy. So let's save all. Let's see what happens, friends. Okay, there it is. Okay, so this... Interesting. This is a sub-scene. Yes, it is a sub-scene. And this was that gradient. Okay. So we need to take both colors of this gradient and tamp down their saturation a little bit. So let's grab the yellow, and boy, is that saturated. Holy cow. Tamp down the saturation of the yellow, which means we need to make it a little deeper. So it doesn't look as good on the screen probably, but that should maybe get our color under control. Now if we go over here to Mel, we kind of have the same problem where this is a standard smart raster level. If we hit the G key and sample this color, as you can see, it takes us right to it like that. And just to be safe, I'm going to also tamp down the saturation there. Control Shift R, it re-renders, and then we just go and look at it in the show and see if we're doing okay. So we jump back to here, and let's look at the meters. And the meters are, oh, we almost didn't make it, but we did. We made it by a whisker. So it really does need to be chomped down a little bit more. But I'm going to say, let's just do a standard color corrector on the whole shot, because I feel like maybe a tiny, tiny punching up of the contrast with a gamma would be useful. And then we should be able to just roll back the overall saturation a tiny, tiny bit. And so again, as I mentioned the other day, this is what you do, you know, when you're editing a movie or doing color correction. This becomes a big, big part of the job, you know. So, the evolution of Disney. Was that something on YouTube or on some platform, Amar? I've seen a couple really good, couple good documentaries. Some very forthcoming. There's a really good documentary on the Disney Plus about the period from '85 to '95. The whole Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg period. But yes, I found it. The evolution of Disney that Amar just cited is indeed here on YouTube. 30 minutes long, so that should be fun to look at. But yeah, I'm letting my Disney Plus subscription expire. You know, I had it for a year, and it's like, it's cool. You know, I kind of watch all the old cartoons and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, if you want to watch... Okay, what happened there? Okay, so this shot's going to be wrong. This is important. Let's jump back here. This shot's going to be wrong because since this is in the latest nightly build, these columns are continuing to do a frame hold because that is the default behavior. So if you don't want that, you need to sort of manually turn them off. And in this one, same thing. Stop frame hold. Okay, so now I can re-render and everything should be just Marvy. Oh yeah, the whole, the Warner Brothers crowd, it's amazing to me, and I love, obviously what Carl Stalling did was just amazing, because he would have to get a cue list of the cartoon, and I mean, it's basically just a list on paper, you know. It's a tick box on your timeline toolbar. Okay, to turn auto on or off, I assume is what you mean. It might be better for you to turn off the implicit hold when you're looking at older scenes. It's a tick box on your timeline toolbar. And you guys, since Amar mentioned Hanna-Barbera, I tell you, I would encourage you to look at. There's some excellent documentaries on YouTube about the history of the company called Filmation, which Filmation was Hanna-Barbera's main competition, creating Saturday cartoons in the 70s. And what a great company. I mean, they were a cool company because they were, they refused to outsource. The way the company ended is a kind of a sad story because they sort of got schnockered into getting bought out by a company that they didn't realize was going to just basically shut down the studio and sell off or basically license all the assets. They really wanted to have all the back catalog of cartoons to syndicate, Okay, so you said it's a tick box on my timeline toolbar. And Darren, I wanted to clarify, I never used the quote-unquote timeline. So are you speaking specifically of the timeline? Or are you speaking of the X sheet as well? Toggle edit in place. So is that... And by the way, right now, I don't even know what tool is activated. Okay, it's the style picker, right. Organize palette and passive pick. Those two options I've never noticed before and have no idea what they do, just so you guys know. One of the deficiencies in Tahoma and OpenTunes is that some of these little hints, it appears that the hints are hard-coded into the code of the program, and so this tells me that the style picker uses the hotkey K, which is actually wrong. The hotkey is G. But if you change the hotkeys, the hints don't tell you correctly. That's kind of all over the place. It's on the timeline toolbar by default, but if you switch to it, you might have it. Depends on if you imported your old layout. And I'd say I won't worry about that at this point. I'm pretty sure lock toggle all. Camera stand visibility. So tick box on the timeline. It's funny, since I'm a Krita user, you'd think I'd love the timeline. And I may get into it, but it's for some reason I just really like the X sheet better in Tahoma. But so it's on the timeline toolbar by default. So if you switch to it, you might have it. It depends on if you've imported your old layout. Well, this is the old layout. I mean, actually when I upgraded, I actually made a copy of Tahoma's folder and then just copied all the new the zip file into the old folder, because that's where all my shortcut keys go to. And then I did the formal import preferences option from the copy folder. I know you're following that, Darren. I don't know if anyone else is. But so I don't see the option to globally turn frame holding off or on. And again, for me, that's not a big deal. I've had like 3 situations where I've opened a shot and then I've had to just manually just go turn it off. So it's not a big deal. You're not showing the toolbar yet. Okay. If you right click on a column, header, and choose the toggle toolbar option. Column header, toggle quick toolbar. Now here I have it already, obviously, so we really don't need to have done that. But so what Darren's saying is, here I need to click somewhere here on one of these column headers and turn on the quick toolbar. There we go. There we go. So now this layout is a little more akin to what we see in Krita. And what we're looking for is a way to globally toggle implicit hold. Right there it is. It's the 4th icon over from the left, which just overall turns implicit hold off. Quite useful. I did mention, I don't think you were here, Darren, but and it probably was. Dude, you always can see this stuff. Toggle edit in place. Ah, it's right there. Did I thought I turned that off. Bear with me, friends. Okay, there we go. So if the quick toolbar, the reason I turned it back off is because it's essentially kind of looks like mostly a duplicate of this one. But I suppose this is actually the command bar and this is the quick toolbar, so they're kind of redundant. For my purposes, I'm going to turn that off because that's just taking up space for no good reason. So, but one of these days, Darren, one of these days, I may start using, I swear I haven't looked at the timing or effects layouts in ages. I'm always either in 2D or I jump to the browser if I want to browse for something quick and dirty, but you know, it's pretty rare. Okay, so anyway, onward and upward here. Yeah, like I said, it's a bit strange. You would think I'd be all about the timeline since I'm a Krita guy, but what can I say? So here we have, this is 90, oh, these are both the same shot, so I guess that's, we're good there. Good there. Now here, 95. We'll set with that one for the moment. Okay, this one, I feel like probably, I hope that 099 is a Tahoma because I'd like to add a little secondary plastic on Luka. So, let's find out. We'll save all, make sure we save our work here. And go to 099, and we're going to hope that this is, judging from how relatively recent that shot is, I suspect it's a Tahoma shot. But, you know, the last 2 weeks I've been kind of back in Krita quite a bit because there's so many old Krita shots I've been... Okay, that's a bit confusing, isn't it? This is a shot that it may appear I started in Tahoma and for whatever goofy reason actually wound up jumping over to jumping back over to Krita. That's obviously completely wrong. The characterization of Mel. So, bad news, folks. Looks like it might be a Krita shot. So, I am going to go ahead and save this, despite the fact that it's been sort of overridden now, because I just redid the shot in Tahoma. But this is 099. 099. Sorry, left the 0 out. And there it is. And this is 099A render. Oh, I know what's going on. I forgot about this. 099 is sort of the biggest disaster in the show in terms of data organization because I wound up, this is one of those cases where I created a really long shot, a sequence with many shots contained in a single Krita file back in the day, and then it became performance punitive to the point where I had to scrap it and break it up into individual scenes. So 099 consists of 99 A, B, C, D, blah, blah, blah. So this is shot 99A. Hopefully. Yep, there it is. Okay, cool. So he says, okay, so I want to check my render settings. Control R. Ah! This is not right. That's bad. So I'm going to look at the properties of this and see if it is a ping sequence. So this is supposed to be a ping sequence. And this is totally wrong. This should be 099 A-render. And then I'm guessing this is supposed to be, sorry to make you guys sit through this logistical stuff, but you just can't do a large project like this without having these little things you gotta do. 099A. I'm checking the files on disk right now that are in the video editor. Yeah, that's correct. So, all right, so let's go ahead and re-render this right now, just to so that we can resave the file, and now the render location will be baked into the Krita file, which is a good thing. Okay. Okay, so one thing I noticed in my video edit, and I'm going to save my work right now, is that Luka, okay, that's just the background. Luka had a color issue on his shirt. Okay, so let's isolate the layer, and here's what we're going to do. We've got to rotate this color around to blue, and that's not really a problem. There's more than one way we could do it, actually, in this case, mainly because his body never moves. But if you want to do it this way, you'd say, let's grab the similar color selection tool. That should grab just the blues. Yeah, it did a pretty good job. All right, so now having done that, we can go Control M, and we're going to do a color rotation. So we're going to affect the hue. See what I mean? So what we want to do is rotate that around to get it into the blue category, away from green into blue. Now that's moving towards purple. So now let's pump the saturation a bit, because that is supposed to be in shadow. But that right there, if you look at this and you look at this, visually that looks pretty close to what we have in the color corrected version of this shot. Now, I just turned off the wrong color corrector, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Yeah, secondary color corrector. So this can be deleted now. We're not going to need this secondary color corrector after we go ahead and fixie poo. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do multi-frame so that it applies this correction to everything. All of the individual frames. Then what we're going to do, okay, it looks like it's done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually do the same operation. What we're going to learn right now is if hitting Control F in Krita 5 causes it to automatically do a multi-frame if the prior action was also a multi-frame. So I'm just going to hit Control F. And it looks like it did. It looks like it did. So there you go. There you go. Not too shabby. All right. So now the question becomes, what about... Okay, why are we seeing that? Okay, that's kind of weird. There we go. Little buffer issue there. Hey, Krita. Thought your buffer issues were over. Now that you're into Krita 5. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a transform mask. Not going to animate it. So that way I'll be able to use a little bit of liquify, because this is obviously looking kind of stupid. And we want to get his sort of anatomical story a bit more under control. And I have to do it with the transform mask so that I can then flatten the layer, and that's going to bake that transformation into every single one of those frames. So the great deficiency right now with Luka lies in the fact that you've got umpteen frames, but the only difference between any of these frames is his mouth. Right? Well, okay, and I guess his eyebrow's going up. Okay, so what I want to do, and this is going to be risky behavior. So here's what I'm going to do, folks. I'm going to turn this layer off, duplicate it, and I'm going to work in the duplicate. Okay? So what I'm trying to do is when he says, do you like monkeys? And by the way, gosh, see, at this point, this change would have to be applied to well, that could work though. Okay, so this is a bit of a tricky thing. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to say, okay, bear with me here, folks. We'll wind up using this copy, actually. Okay, so let's say we're going to liquefy, but we want the biggest possible liquefy brush possible. Okay, and we're going to apply the operation, and I'm going to lock this layer so it doesn't get affected. Okay, so what we've got to do is we've got to move him, but on the last frame that he gets moved, we have to use a transform mask so that all the rest of the frames where he's still talking get transformed. That sounds pretty ugly and confusing. It is. It's actually the reason why the proper solution to the problem right now is this. If you want to add secondary animation to Luka, probably the smart way to do it would be to literally cut and paste these layers into Tahoma and use the darn plastic tool. The whole thing would be like infinitely easier, probably. So we'll try. We will try. So I'm applying this to the group and it appears nothing's happening, so I'm not sure why that is. Okay, and the reason is, holy cow, because performance can't handle it. Okay, so we're gonna retreat from this strategy. It's actually not a horrible idea, but conceptually not horrible, but the choice I just made is kind of the wrong choice. I'm gonna hit undo, and I think Krita is gonna take forever to decide to respect my undo operation. Okay, so now why would... Okay, there we go. So again, folks, bear with me, because this is one of those situations that has more than one solution, and so you kind of want to, you know, take a chill pill and think about what you're trying to do. I think solution number one, I think Luka looks great. So why not just get rid of this copy and let's make a copy of the whole group so that we can then bake it down and it'll be a little easier to work with. Okay? So that means we're going to duplicate the group, turn this one off, and then this one's going to be merged. Okay? Now this will be, you might find this next progression kind of interesting. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use transform masks, but we're not going to animate them actually. We're going to kludge the animation in an unexpected way. Okay, what do I mean by that? What we want to do is we want to basically have two keyframes, right? One where Luka moves a little bit, right? Probably on frame, whatever this is 7, and then probably on 8. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to make 2 more duplicates. Actually, yes, 2 more duplicates. The first one, the first group is going to go up to frame 7. The second group is going to include frame 7. And the third group is going to include everything after frame 7. This does not need to be in there either, by the way. Okay, so the idea is we're going to do a little transformation here and then another transformation here, but this one is going to be with a transform mask so that it actually prevails over all of these frames. Make sense? Okay, so let's solo this layer. Yep, there's Luka. Now if we solo this layer, we shouldn't see him, and that's because he's invisible up until frame 7. So I'm just double checking my environment here. Okay, so now that this is all baked together, we can do what I was originally going to do in the first place, which is do a liquefy operation on Luka. So what I'm going to do is I'm just using my mouse and I'm going to move him a little bit like that. Ba-da. Okay. Now, because I did that on the underlying layer, I need to insert an empty key so that now we got this. Okay? And now I'm going to insert an empty key here. I guess we actually need to put it there. And here I am going to add a transform mask. Like I said, plastic tool would have been easier. But now what we're going to do is on this layer, we are going to do a little more aggressive liquefy operation. Little more aggressive. Okay. And now this, theoretically, can be a flattened layer. Now, should I test it first? Probably should. Okay. But then this... okay. If you want to test it, actually, here's what you have to do. It's kind of sad, but here's what you have to do. Turn this layer off, duplicate it, take the copy, and flatten it. Because if you don't pre-render that translation, you're applying the liquefy effect to the whole layer, to all those animated frames, and it takes a little time to calculate that, right? So now we should see... Okay, not bad, not bad. My sense is that we probably have one too many... we really didn't want that extra blank frame in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to kludge it by... I'm going to actually try to do an extra tween right here. So on this layer, if you guys aren't following this, forgive me. I'm doing my best. So what I want to do here is just the tiniest move. And if it's smooth, it's smooth. And if it's not, it's not. We'll see. Okay, not bad. But I see a little bit of a... Yeah. Okay, so the only thing we need to do is right here. We need to give him just a tiny bit of movement here to get us tweened. So I think we're okay, actually. There we go. You like monkeys? I like it. I like it. Way better. Massive improvement over the shot we had before. And it wasn't actually that painful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to merge with the layer below. So we're going to actually bake these three layers together. There's no reason to keep them separate anymore. So Control E and Control E. This group, that's the one we had before. I don't think it's needed anymore. So we can delete it. So now we've reduced this whole thing to... Actually, strike that. Strike that. I might have just made a mistake. Because of monkey. Yeah, we don't have monkey in here, so we got to get monkey in here. So this group, we'll turn it back on, but we'll take Luka out. Yep, there we go. Excellent. And now we can render this. Control R. Yep, there we go. That is definitely an improvement. So sorry, that was pretty. That was a pretty involved process. But it did the trick. So I think I'm going to go ahead and check this out in the show, and then I think I'll go ahead and wrap up this live streaming session. Just because, you know, kind of like ready for a break. But here we go. You like monkeys? Oh, I love it. I love it. Just that, it just blows my mind how that little bit of secondary animation just makes it pop. I love it. I did a good job. Now, I don't like the cropping. I'm not sure why I had that cropped. So I'm going to undo that cropping. So it's a little wider shot. Yep, they're good. Okay, that's it. That's it. So if there are no remaining questions from the class, if the class has any remaining questions, I shall attempt to answer them post haste. And if not, then I suppose it would be my prerogative to conclude today's class. I guess I'm doing a little bit of a John Houseman, aren't I? You know, one of the things about Houseman was the way he would push a certain word. There would be a pause and a push. That's like totally John Houseman. Am I right, Maria? Come on. That's John Houseman. Yeah. I used to watch The Paper Chase when I was in high school. It was on PBS. So anyway, nobody's got any questions. So thank you guys. It's been real, or as what's her name in Hercules would say, it's been a real slice. And of course, there will be more